Recently, my wife and I were on a trip to Alaska, and we had it meticulously planned. And my wife is a definite planner. We had an agenda, we had an itinerary, we had everything, and we were in control. We had planned this for about a year, okay? Then we come into Anchorage, first day in Alaska. We go to a restaurant, a nice one, and I end up with food poisoning. All this planning, all this control that we thought we had suddenly became an illusion. I was really sick to the point of where, was I going to go to the emergency room, or was I just going to sweat this thing out and move through it? Fortunately, we did okay, but it really altered 1 week of the 2 weeks that we were in Alaska. We went from where we were in control to a black swan event, and all of a sudden everything changed. Now, up until that moment, what we can say is, who was that guy who thought he was in control? Okay? At this moment of meeting uncertainty and finding the black swan, I discovered very clearly that I was not in control. The only thing that I could control at that particular moment was the relationship I was having with toilet bowl. It was, it was something where it was just coming out and I was working it. And I knew that this thing was going to take its own process. It was going to take its own process. And ultimately, we finally came to a moment of where we passed it, we moved on, but it became very clear that I did not control whether or not I had something like poisoning. What happened is I controlled the way I was going to respond. So my question in trading is, who is this I that you see yourself as engaging with the markets? Because I'm here to tell you something. The I that you think you are and the self are completely different animals. This I is something that you fell into, and before you knew it, these familiar patterns had been shaped by the brain into something called I. It became the representation of a self, okay, that you identified with and says, oh, that's me. No. What it is a particular construction of the self that you've identified with among vast potentials of other constructions of possible selves. And in trading, what happens is this. We bring an I. Let's just say you're an alpha and you have just been very successful in your career, and you've come in there and you know how to win, you're a winner and all that stuff. And you come in and you've been there 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And what you're discovering is that all that control, all that making things happen that used to happen in the other world, suddenly is not happening. The I that had been constructed, while you weren't looking, that had been very successful, suddenly that I, that construction of the self, engaging the uncertainties of trading, suddenly isn't working so well. Suddenly what happens is it's freaking out. Suddenly it's over trading. Suddenly it's just sitting there going, I don't want to lose. And all of a sudden that thing goes and gets you, and you don't want to you're going to do anything but not lose. And you blow up a lot of capital. That is actually a construction of the self. And I'm telling you that the self is an illusion. What you really are is a brain that has adapted potential that you exist as into a construction. And emotional programs in your brain have been duking it out to be in control of the construction of the self. And most of all, it's very successful. Then you get to trading. There are different rules. It's like the difference between Newtonian big particle physics and quantum mechanics little particle. The worlds are different. Suddenly what used to work and you never questioned don't work at all. As a matter of fact, you keep hitting hard against a brick wall. And you finally come to the moment going, wait a minute, is Randy saying that this self that I am is just simply one construction of a self among many? Yeah. Now, if you understand that, and if you understand that your brain has adapted you for short-term survival, not just in the last 6.5 million years, but long before we were mammals. It's been going on for 600 million years. And so we come to a moment of where it wants to live This self wants to live, and it's willing to do anything to be able to do that, including deceive itself. And that's what happens to traders. You end up coming in and saying, I know how to win, and you find out over and over again that you don't. It's not working, but you're so stuck in that organization of self, you're not willing to look beyond that small potential that's been organized into a self, into a self that has a completely different relationship with uncertainty, with probability. Okay? That's what happened with me in the food poisoning. Is clearly what happened is I was not going to control the outcome here. I could control how I responded to my body. And ultimately, I had faith and I had a lot of good experience that said, you know something? I can keep my mind right. I can keep this disciplined. I can stay impartial. I can stay compassionate with myself. And I had the courage to be able to face this particular major meltdown that changed the way our holidays went. The same way in trading, friends. The very first thing is to recognize there is the illusion of control. You do not control outcome. What you do is you can control the mind that generates process, though. Now, that's going to require you to reconstruct this holy grail called the self into a very different way of engaging uncertainty. Instead of engaging it historically the way your evolutionary psychology would, fight, flight, what you're going to learn to do is when you face uncertainty, what you're saying is, you know something, I'm going to intentionally produce curiosity. I'm going to produce a very different mind that engages that uncertainty. Okay? And I'm not trying to control it. I'm going to control me. I'm going to control the me that shows up to be able to engage that uncertainty. Friends, that can be done. And in the doing of it, what you learn is your life just expands greatly. Trading really becomes a path of self-mastery and self-discovery because ultimately you can't hide anymore. Okay? That truth meter called your trading account is going to find you, and you start really realizing, oh, I'm constructed of beliefs, biases, and assumptions about the way the world works. And they're showing me in this world called trading, they don't work. Then you have to say, I need to change. I need to reconstruct the organization of self that I am so that I can match up, instead of controlling outcome like all my ancestors have tried to do, I control the mind that I bring into that moment. I control the process that I am that engages the challenges of living, including trading. Friends, learn more. This is something where, in trading in particular, you're going to run into this brick wall. Most people really get it at about 3 years. Some take 5 years, and they realize that the problem's not out there, okay? The problem and the solution is right here. And what I'm asking you to do right now, take a look at this and go, oh my gosh, you mean there's not an I? There's not. Sounds weird, I know. What you are is a construction of potential. The observer that you are observes potential and brings forth the form that potential takes on. Trading is telling you the old potential, the organization of the old potential isn't working. Your job as a designer of the self that engages uncertainty is to start reconstructing it on higher ground, on more powerful ground of where you make this distinction. What I do control is me. And by having that edge of psychological control, I have access to the edge in my methodology. And friends, that's the new world order in trading. Learn more. Watch the webinar. Watch more of the video on YouTube. Read my book. Take a look at this and start realizing, man, you're on a heck of a journey. Your job is to wake up and to realize, wow, I am the creature who is conscious creation, and I get to create my destiny. Yeah, come and learn, friends. Come and learn.